Russian ZWAR correspondent Yuri Kotenok gave a long, frank interview in which he admitted that Moscow's strategic objectives have not been fulfilled in 3.5 years of war, and they will not be fulfilled in the coming years. According to him, the Kremlin's announced attempts to demilitarize Ukraine, that is, to deprive it of its military power, have not brought the expected result. On the contrary, the Ukrainians have become stronger during the war. Kotenok said directly that at the current rate of advance, the capture of Donbass will take years. According to rough estimates, if we continue to advance at the same pace, breaking the enemy's defenses, then we will go on for years. For years. If we continue to advance at this pace, gnawing out tens and hundreds of meters a day with blood and sweat, it will take us a year to a year and a half to liberate the territory of the DPR alone. The Kremlin propagandist complained. He stressed that the key goals of aggression announced by Russian dictator Vladimir Putin in 2022 have failed. The key goals, in my opinion, of the SVO are the demilitarization of Ukraine and the denazification. Let's see how close we are to this. 3 years have passed. In fact, if we speak seriously and frankly, we are at the beginning of a long journey. Despite the fact that so much blood has been shed, what losses, what destruction, said Kotenok. He also noted a serious technological lag in the unmanned sector. Ukraine is already in NATO. It is a NATO testing ground. We still have a problem. The enemy outnumbers us in drones. Earlier, at the beginning of the year, we had a ratio of 1:4. That is, for every one of our drones, there are 4 of the enemy. This is serious. Consolidated Europe is actually working for Ukraine. There is a problem. And this is a drone war. Drones have changed literally everything, said the ZWAR correspondent. He complained that because of UAVs, Russian occupiers have a very difficult time on the front lines. Our fighters, who are carrying out a combat mission, are often cut off from the main forces because supply is impossible. The supply route is 10 kilometers and the entire territory is controlled by enemy drones. They go 3 to 5 days without water and food. The ammunition is fired very carefully because it is already the end, Kotenok said. The propagandist admitted in an interview that he was born and raised in Lviv. He also spoke about the reaction of his relatives in Ukraine, saying that they curse him and say that his grandfather is turning over in his grave because of his support for aggression.
The armed forces of Ukraine and the National Guard liberated Pankivka and the surrounding areas in the Dobrapilya direction, the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine reports. Ukrainian soldiers operating in the operational zone of the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine restored control over Pankivka and adjacent settlements in the Donetsk region. Russian forces are trying to hold their positions and are reinforcing their groupings in the area. To increase offensive potential, additional reserves have been redeployed to the responsibility zone of the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine, 4 infantry brigades and 1 marine regiment. The defense forces of Ukraine are making every effort to stop the enemy's advance and prevent a breakthrough in the defense, the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine emphasized. Earlier, the defense forces of Ukraine deoccupied the village of Zarykne in the Donetsk region. The settlement is now fully under the control of the Ukrainian army. In addition, the Ukrainian Shkval battalion of the Skylia regiment liberated the village of Filia on the border of Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk regions. On August 24, the commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, reported that the defense forces conducted successful counterattacks in the Donetsk region and liberated 3 settlements from Russian occupation. Ukrainian fighters have ambushed the paratroopers of the invading Russian army who were launching an attack using armored combat vehicles. One of the enemy's vehicles, moving along a road littered with numerous armored combat vehicles destroyed by Ukrainian drones and artillery, broke down halfway. When the column monitored by Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance came to a halt, it was targeted by artillery fire. The desperate Russian soldiers had to abandon the disabled vehicle and retreat. The invaders, who filmed and shared what happened to them, admitted that their attack had failed.
Бегущий?
Нет.
Отхуярило всех.
Тебя?
Да.
Сука. Да. На ту двойку грузитесь. Ну что, бля, делаем?
Я понял, что делать.
Серега!
Что делать?
Пострять!